The sun is shining in Sydney. The blue skies are out. Congratulations, Sydney. And today, and it happens to be Fashion Week, we've got the Shaw Financial has deployed their best looking financial broker to talk to us about super. So today we're talking about super. Are people really using super? And what we're seeing out there in the lending and real estate world. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so
The broker from the back page joins us this morning, Zach Constantino. You might recognize him from the List magazine. He's on the back page.
That's me. Thanks for the intro, Billy.
There he is.
I'm honoured that you keep a picture of me so close to you in the morning, Mark.
Every week, printed Fridays.
No, I love it. All my details are on the back there, so if you need anything, if you reach out to Billy, he's got them all as well, so happy to help anyone. But what are we talking about this morning, Mark?
Just call him. Yeah, this is really interesting. So you've got some interesting intel for us, because the question we asked you, we said, "Love, mate, we're going to talk about this on socials on our show," is the amount of people actually executing, actually doing something with their super money. A lot more than I thought when I heard that the sort of high level numbers from yourself and from Shaw. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a large portion of our business, or my business at least, that arranges pre-approvals and does lending for new purchases in side of a self-managed super fund, which, in the last couple of years has seen a bit of an uptick. I think people are realising there's an opportunity in putting that money in property, and I guess from where I sit, it's a leveraged opportunity. So you actually gain more exposure to a market, being the property market, with the same amount of funds you would have if you were to invest in shares or something like that.
Yeah.
This is a really nice topic. How much money do people have in their super?
It does vary, but I think Billy's got a little graph for us.
Glad you asked. Let me show you.
Wah.
Mean and median balance, June 2021.
That's a sexist graph.
You can see the breakdown.
That's how the ATO delivers it.
So sexist. Men have got more money than women. Wonder why? I think that's because of they're probably knocked out a little bit when they make babies. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say they're in the engine room of their career for a little bit longer, and exactly so. They're the men aren't having the babies.
Okay, talk to us about. So this is how much money people have got in their super. This is incredible. On average.
Yeah, I mean the data is averaged, and it's from 2021, but I know that there were some super funds that were poorer performing, and some in and on the back of COVID. And I think that has been a bit of a catalyst to what I've been seeing in the last 18 months, is that people have been establishing a self-managed super fund. So, rolling out of their industry fund and creating a self-managed super fund with their mum and their dad, or their partner, their spouse. Some people are going in. You can go in with, I think, up to 6 members, and you don't have to be related.
Wow.
And what they're doing is they're using, as little as $150,000 combined as that 20% or 30% deposit to purchase a higher yielding investment property. So they're actually going into those markets that are, outside of the major capital cities or in those growth regions. I've seen a lot of people purchase in their self-managed super fund in Adelaide, in Perth, in the fringe of Melbourne. And that's for that lower price point. So, you're purchasing for $500K.
Yeah, it is so interesting. I love the I love looking at the age splits. So, what does your typical customer look like? Are they, you're talking about people sort of switching on the light bulb and the idea of around 30 years old. They're in the engine room. What are they then doing as their next step?
Yeah, it does vary, but it's all sort of consistent in a particular demographic, and it's in that accumulation phase. People who are, either double income, no kids, or have a small family, or have a young family, and they're, between 35 and maybe 45, even up to 50, and they've got a balance in one super fund plus their partners, a second super fund, and it amounts to what you could use as a deposit. And then it comes down to what they're looking to buy. And there are some very creative structures and purchases depending on what your income streams are, especially for those self-employed people. I have done quite a few purchases where the super fund's set up, the contributions are rolled into the self-managed, and then they've got a deposit to then go and buy a commercial property or an industrial property, and they actually lease that back to a business that is owned and operated by the same guarantors. So it's an effective way to then utilize business expenditure to top up your super by means of rental payment.
Very clever.
So, for people who don't know, the property market's $10 trillion. In the superannuation market for Australians is about 2.5, and we're getting to $3 trillion. So we're talking about an enormous amount of capital. And if that becomes leveraged, they could almost buy the Australian property market if they leverage the Australian super. Where it came from, which I think is really important, because I think where we're going to in this conversation, it's important, is it's a form of compulsory saving for when people get older. Now, what happened was we suffered as real estate agents in property management because there was the government effectively, I'm going to say, robbed people when they introduced super, because they took away 9 or 10 or whatever % of people's total income, which was effectively their savings. It was a bit like mum and dad tapping little Johnny on the shoulder and saying, "You're working now. If you're going to live here, we're going to make you pay board, or we're gonna make you save X amount a year." So the government turned around and said, "Okay, look, if you're gonna live in Australia, and you're gonna be PAYG, we're gonna strip out 10%." So this is becoming a monster, this superannuation thing, and it's only the tipping point now from in my working career where I've actually seen it possible to buy property.
And I think that was where you're starting from on that point, Mark. Was it 1992 is when they brought it in? Was it early 90s?
Right. Yep. Now, look, I'm much younger than that. I don't know.
But yeah, you're right. Like there's this huge accumulation of super for people who are, definitely been in the engine room of their career for the better part of a decade or more, and so it's now realizing that there's potentially some utility in that rather than having it in a managed fund. In that, there is potentially a capital growth play, but I think the whole leverage side of it's important because from a lending perspective, we can go from 90%. So we can go from 70 to 80 to 90% LVR, so loan to value ratio inside your super fund, and that's across the board with residential and commercial assets. So, you might be able to do a margin loan in a share trading account or to fund your share trading account, but that's far more complex, and there are the risks associated with that, and it's not as common. So therefore, if you've got $150,000 in a super fund, plenty of strategies, but one being property, one being shares, you could buy $150,000 of shares, or you could leverage the $150,000 at a 70% LVR or 80% LVR and get yourself into something between $500,000 and $600,000.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That leverage component I find to be incredible, because for every 10,000 the bank will give you 40,000. A regulated bank will give you 40,000. So what I think is interesting is they will give you 4 times the amount of your dollar or 5 times the amount of your dollar. They will let you enjoy that rent on 5 times the amount, and they'll let you enjoy the capital growth on 5 times the amount, providing you pay an interest rate. It sounds like a really good deal to me. Can you explain, Zach, and probably the most important thing out of today that I'm finding when I talk to buyers, and we're not advising people, but this is my observation from the outside watching people. The biggest question that I see these guys say is, I can't get any money. I've already got a mortgage. I wouldn't be able to get a loan on my super.
Yeah, so just to touch on, the bank lending X amount against, what income that you have, the way that it's calculated on a self-managed super fund, you've got contributions as a stream of income into the self-managed super. So that could be from your PAYG job, your partner's PAYG job, or if you're self-employed, your contributions up to, I think it's 27,500 per year, which is going up next year to 30,000. And then proposed rental income, because you can't buy an asset to live in your super, it will be an investment asset. Therefore, it will be returning or producing an income. So you use your contributions plus proposed rent, and then the debt to income assessment is typically higher in an SMSF because they're playing with less of an income side of things, and it is a commercial borrowing agreement. So there is, more flexibility in the way that they lend. They allow a debt to income of roughly 7 to 8.5, sometimes even 9. So 9 times the income you could get in your SMSF. So if there's 100 grand coming in, you might be able to borrow $900,000.
Oh, wow.
It's rare that that's the case, but as you could imagine, you get a couple of people on some juicy salaries. They might be clicking near 80 grand a year. Then they've got some significant borrowing capacity that,
Yeah.
in their existing super might get them $1 million property.
Wow.
So, and guys, if you just tuned in, we're talking about buying in your super. I think this is probably the most relevant topic I've been dealing with lately. Billy, what were you going to say?
And calculated separately to personal income. So if there is existing debt there in your personal name, or you have hopes and aspirations of trying to buy another property in your personal name, separate to that.
Yeah, that's a big point, Billy. Thanks for picking that up. It's
Well done, Billy.
It's independent of your personal borrowing capacity. So it's done inside the self-managed super fund trust, and that trust has a corporate trustee. So the company isn't your personal name. The SMSF isn't your personal name. So you retain your borrowing capacity inside your personal name, and the self-managed super fund lending is independent. I guess the other thing to add there.
Don't only rich people have self-managed super funds? Doesn't it cost a lot to run it every year?
Not from what I've seen. I mean, there are costs associated. I guess from what I've seen, it could cost you, $2,500 a year, up to $5,000 a year in account keeping, because they are required to be audited and have their tax returns and financials done, because it is set up as a company. So it's treated like a company. It's audited and reviewed like a company at tax time, but it's obviously within your self-managed super. So call it $5,000 a year, and maybe $2,500 to set up is what I have seen from a lot of my clients who have recently established, and clients that have had them, up and running for a few years. So if you can generate that in the SMSF from a returns point, this is all a cost based around your investment. So It's all running through the self-managed super.
And let's face it, your normal super's probably paying some pretty enormous costs already without you realising.
Those admin fees, they're expensive if you're not doing anything.
It's nicely tucked away, but have a look. I think you'll be shocked what you're actually paying on your super that's not self-managed by way of fees. Have we missed anything today?
Just quickly. Can we recap? What's the top, say, 5 things people are buying? Because you had some interesting comments off air about that.
Yeah, look, residential investments, so houses that people can live in that you rent out.
Yep.
You've got commercial properties, so something that's got a shop front, or something that might house, say your business if you're a dentist, or if you've got a business of your own that has retail presence, then you might be able to purchase in your SMSF and then rent it back to your business. And then industrial purchases, warehouses, they're getting pretty common. And I know that there's a few good ones flying around in your book. So
Yeah.
as I said, the price point's key, and it all comes down to the review of what income's coming in and what the proposed rent is going to make up from that. And using the existing balance as a deposit, it's people are doing it with as little as $120,000.
Mate, great one, because I'm glad you mentioned the last one, because that's what I'm seeing. We've got warehouses for 850 grand and storage for 198 grand, and we've been taking deposits of 19 odd thousand and 80 odd thousand from people's super, and I'm talking in the last probably 3 weeks there's in excess of 25, 30 deposits. It's been very, very busy, and a lot of them, or I should say even most of them, were super.
I think it's great because it's cash that's not being used sometimes. You can't unlock, if you're under that 65 years old, you can't unlock the cash in the first place.
Especially if you can top it up 30 grand a year, if that's what they're doing next year, Zach. You've got another couple of years. If this project like ours isn't finished for a couple of years, you can tuck away some more super. You and the wife, or you and whoever's in the super, go 30, 30, 30.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Time to get in the engine room. Have a great day. Great topic. Thanks, Zach.
No worries, gents.
Zach,
Thanks for having me.
before we go, I just want to talk about the beard. How it's very, very. That's a really good beard you've got going. Really good. Slightly Conan. Very dark. Mine, unfortunately, has gone all discoloured and mangy. Huh.
There's things for that. I can colour it in for you later if you'd like.
That's my next question. Mate, you're a legend. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences about super. Hopefully that's helped people today. Billy,
As Ray said, have a cracking day. Not going to comment about my book.
don't take Billy's movie reviews if he ever gives you one. That's all I'm going to say today. See you guys.
See you later.
Cheers.